Hey, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier, and here we are. It's a Friday, getting ready for the weekend, and of course, for wrestling fans, this will be a Wrestle Rant. Shane McKenna of the Facebook group Wrestling Fans, you can look them up on Facebook, has been requesting that I give some feedback on some topics, and so I'm going to do that. I'm taking time out of my traveling schedule. I'm driving many hundreds of miles today, folks. I'm like a wrestler in the 1980s, just driving myself. But let's discuss these things. Let's start off with the Ring of Honor stuff. Ring of Honor has apparently released all their talent. They are planning one more television taping, one more pay per view in December. And after that, Ring of Honor Wrestling apparently will take the first quarter of 2022 off. First quarter means the first 3 months. That's a term that sometimes we hear. We don't know exactly what it means. A quarter means 3 months. So January, February, March. They would come back, I guess, for WrestleMania season. Not that that's their show, but still, how do I feel about this? ROH, I have a long history as an ROH fan and taking some time off from being a fan. And when they first started, I went to a Paul London, Michael Shane ladder match in Philadelphia. I was there the night that they had a tag team title tournament. And I believe it was Christopher Daniels won the tag team title. I'm trying to remember who his partner was. Michael Modest was there. I believe the guy's name was Xavier. Won the ROH title over Low Key that night. So I've been an ROH fan for quite some time, but I've also had several years where I haven't been a fan, and that's honestly because of their ownership. Sinclair Broadcasting kind of bullies local news reporters. It's not a secret, folks. You can look into Sinclair Broadcasting. They're very right wing. And look, just because they're right wing doesn't mean that they're bad people, but their agenda of bullying local news anchors to read their preordained scripts. You can look into Sinclair Broadcasting. It's not a company that I agree with on their politics, or more importantly, the way that they do business. So I've not supported ROH for several years. Um, I went to, I think, a total of maybe 6 or 7 ROH shows in my life. The last two were pretty fun. They were at the Providence Convention Center. I want to say the summers of 2012 and 2013. I went with Damon Campena and a bunch of his guys. A guy named Fred and some other really good guys. We would go to the ROH shows and have fun, but I just haven't been able to support them since the whole Sinclair thing. A lot of people are kind of blaming the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes, saying that they all left ROH in the dust when they started doing All In and then AEW. And here we are. ROH seems to have been left behind, folks, with everything. When you started seeing things like NXT and AEW that both had an ROH feel, ROH got left behind. And I think it's always been a conflict that they've been owned by Sinclair, because Sinclair is a very right-wing, agenda-based thing. Pro wrestling, I'm sorry to say, it's very wild. It's crazy. Um, Wrestling and right-wing politics, in my opinion, don't go along, folks. I think we've seen that enough with WWE and Trump. So I like to separate wrestling from politics, and these companies don't. And I think Sinclair Broadcasting is going to look at their ROH stuff and they're going to sell to the highest bidder. And I think it might be interesting if Tony Khan and Vince McMahon have a head-to-head, pissing contest. I can't imagine anyone else really being interested in this ROH material, except maybe something like Bleacher Report or the Fight Network. But this ROH video library, which is going to be a whole lot of talents. I mean, you do have CM Punks, you have, Daniel Bryan, you have Samoa Joe, all in that ROH library. AJ Styles, Raven. A lot of top wrestlers have wrestled in ROH over the last 20 years. We'll see what happens. And hey, look, folks, let's be honest. Rob Feinstein of RH Video or RF Video started ROH, so give him credit for that. A controversial guy in some ways, and he's come under some scrutiny, as we know. But give him credit because he started ROH as a response to ECW going out of business. So all this stuff ties in. How do I feel about it? If Shane is asking my opinion, I kind of think it's good, to be honest with you, at least from my perspective. I'm not a hardcore ROH fan anymore. from my perspective, it's starting to feel like the WWF versus WCW in like 88, 89, when you had that first wave or that old school territories, the AWA World Class Championship Wrestling, Continental, Mid-South, or UWF, when they all started to go by the wayside, and a lot of the top talents went over. Hey, Bob, and we'll get to this, buddy. Thanks. When a lot of the top talents started going over to WCW, Ted Turner Wrestling or Jim Crockett Promotions, even before then, or the WWF, like Ted DiBiase going over to be the $1 Million Man, you had like two strong companies in the pay-per-view era of the 90s. You had Sting and Flair and Vader over at WCW. You had the WWF. And so we know what happened in the 90s. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but if AEW and WWE kind of become like the two big companies, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know if we need a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth company. Maybe three would be good. Like we had AWA, the Vern Gagne, the NWA, with everybody, Jim Crockett, the Von Erichs, and everybody, and the WWF. That might be good. Three major promotions. Here we go, Bob. Is ROH going out of business, or they really going on a break or something like that? I think that they think they're going on a break, Bob. I just read an article before I got down here on one of the websites, one of the wrestling websites, Cultaholic, to give them credit, and I checked out WrestleLamia. I always like to cite my sources. And the guy who I guess is in charge of ROH for Sinclair is saying, "Oh, we're not going out of business. That's ballyhoo. We're taking a break." We've all been around the block, right, Bob? I mean, we know this when we see it. I mean, they might be telling us they're going on break, but why would you release all your talent? All your talent? It seems like it's not going to be around much longer. And I mean, how can you release all your talent at the end of one calendar year and then come back and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to be rocking and rolling in April and May"? And I don't know. I think that they might have the best of intentions. They might have the best of thoughts right now as far as coming back strong for the second quarter of 2022. But I think at the end of the day, Sinclair is going to say, "Wow, we haven't made $1 on this ROH Wrestling. It's not pushing our right wing agenda. We're not making all these wild and crazy pro wrestlers or wrestling fans into right wing people. So why do we have it? Why are we doing this?" And they will say, we're not going to do it anymore. That's my opinion, Bob. I could be wrong. Any other comments, Bob? Please chime in. I was actually looking for more information because I saw on Twitter 3 or 4 hours ago, somebody tweeted that AEW had signed. This is just rumor stuff. I don't know if this is true. I don't think it is. But someone had tweeted that ROH signed the Briscoes and Jay Lethal. And I was like, is that? I took it for face value because it wasn't a joke tweet. And then I'm looking into that information and I'm not seeing anything to back that up. So I don't know if this exact moment, they listed about 10 or 12 top people. They listed EC3, Jay Lethal, the Briscoes, to name 4. I don't know if that's accurate. It could be accurate in a day or two. We'll find out. As of right now, I can't find any article substantiating that. Hey, Shane, what's up, buddy? Shane wanted the rant. I gave you a shout out, wrestling fans. Shane McKenna, great wrestling group. Even though it has Chris Old in it, it's still a great group. Just kidding, Chris. But in any event, and who's our buddy? Bailey Mack's a good guy in that group. Some good people in wrestling fans group, but I wanted to do this special broadcast because Shane was requesting my opinion. So I just gave my ROH thoughts. I think it's going to be really interesting. I got to think that either Vince McMahon and the WWE, because AJ Styles, like I said, Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, all those guys from ROH, Matt Hardy wrestled there, Eddie Guerrero wrestled in ROH. Like I said, I've been to 6 or 7 ROH shows. Let's see what happens here. I'm not sure who you mean by he, Shane. You got to clarify, buddy. Pronouns, pal. Who's he? But I think that Vince McMahon and WWE would love that ROH library, more stuff for the network, for Peacock, whatever. And I got to think that Tony Khan would love it too, because I'm got to think that Tony Khan has visions of having an AEW network sooner rather than later. I've got to think that way because even Impact Wrestling has a network that Conrad talks about, the Impact app. As a matter of fact, folks, as a little byline, I was up late last night watching cable TV in my buddy's basement, and I saw that the Impact Wrestling had like a Daphne tribute show. So it was like all the greatest matches of Daphne in Impact Wrestling. She's wrestling the Spider Lady, the former lady Victoria from WWE, former women's champion Victoria. Great. It was actually a pretty damn good match, and Daphne was winning a lot of these matches. And I saw her. I guess it was a gimmick like who was the vice president lady that ran for vice president several years ago with McCain. She was doing a gimmick like her. So I got to watch this Daphne tribute show last night. Shane, please clarify who's he, buddy, because I'm not sure who you're talking about. So RIP to Daphne once again. And now we get to maybe our main event, or the first thing that Shane was requesting was, what do I think of this Khan Bischoff thing? I'm just going to wipe my nose here, gentlemen, because I was doing some cocaine. No, just kidding. I'm in my car. I'm safe. No cocaine. So what do I think about this situation with Eric Bischoff, Tony Khan? I guess it goes back a few weeks. Tony Khan said some glib statements. He was saying if a lot of quotes, he was kind of boasting and being Tony Khan, where he kind of, tweets between real Tony Khan and character Tony Khan. And he was basically said a bunch of stuff about comparing how great ROH, I'm not ROH, but AEW is doing with the ratings, and saying that they were winning the demo war on that Friday night where they went kind of head to head with WWE for just half an hour. And at one point, Tony said something about, if Ted Turner knew 1/100th of what I know about pro wrestling, WCW would still be in business. Fast forward to Eric Bischoff's 83 Weeks podcast. Bischoff was very insulted by this. And Bischoff basically went on a rant and basically tried to put Tony Khan in his place and said, basically, Tony, you're not competing head to head, you're cosplay competing. And, how do you know what Ted Turner knew about wrestling? And how dare you compare yourself to Ted Turner? Now, both guys have a lot of points. I'm kind of on Team Bischoff on this one. And then Tony responded and had a long-wind kind of apologetic response, but not really apologetic. But Tony brought up some stuff about Eric lowering himself onto Nitro on a motorcycle back in the day, Eric challenging Vince McMahon to a fight. So Tony's kind of saying, well, Eric, how can you, of all people, give me a hard time for taking on Vince McMahon? Well, that's what you did in the 90s. And then Eric, I just listened to his long-winded response, 45 minutes worth, where Eric was basically saying, okay, touche on that. But Tony, you really are pushing yourself down people's throats when you're saying that you know more about wrestling than Ted Turner. And the very network you're on, TBS and TNT, the very two networks, the T stands for Turner. You know what I mean? So Bischoff kind of called out Khan once again. And to be honest, the one thing that Bischoff didn't say to Tony Khan was, you were born on third base, pal. Your dad, created this great thing for Toyota cars. And because of that, you are born into $1 billion family, and good for you guys. But don't compare yourself to a self-made man like Ted Turner, who really did, scrap himself up, out of whatever he was born into. I don't think Turner was born rich. I could be wrong, but Turner was a self-made millionaire, billionaire for the most part, who changed the course of cable television. And you could he's easily a wrestling Hall of Famer, WWE or any other wrestling Hall of Fame. Ted Turner, he loved pro wrestling enough to keep it on TBS for as long as he could. And wrestling was always good to the early Ted Turner TBS. I think it was called WGN Studios, the original Channel 17 back in like the late 70s, early 80s. Ted Turner loved wrestling enough to keep it going. He bought WCW or bought Jim Crockett Promotions and renamed it WCW when he could. So who the fuck is Tony Khan to put down in any way, disparage Ted Turner? And I think that's what Bischoff really got lit, as he said about. I'm on Team Bischoff on this one. I said this, guys. You can look back in my videos going back two or three years now, when AEW was first starting with Dynamite about 2 years ago. I made a video. I challenged Tony Khan to keep himself off of AEW Dynamite for 2 months. I said, please don't make yourself a character. We've lived through Eric Bischoff on Nitro. We've lived through all the goddamn McMahons on Raw and WWE SmackDown. We don't need any more owners as characters. I was very adamant about that. And for just about 9 weeks, Tony Khan, accepted my challenge, whether he saw it or not. He wasn't on AEW Dynamite for about 9 weeks. And then around 9 weeks, he started creeping in. And for the most part, Tony's not a part of the show on AEW. Every once in a while, it's become more, increasing that he's on there. A lot of times at the Dynamite tapings there in Jacksonville, Tony would come on before the show, do some business with the Acclaimed or with QT Marshall. They would do some comedy stuff. But Tony was very babyface. He did start doing more heel stuff, heel owner, when they started doing the stuff with Impact, like Kenny Omega going over and Tony Khan's doing stuff with Shivani. So to me, that fucking trap, folks. It's like these wrestling owners, promoters can't keep themselves away. Dixie Carter, fucking Tony Khan now, all the McMahons are the worst, Bischoff. They always have to make themselves part of the story. Here's the thing. To me, that story's wrote. It's been done to death. We don't need these wrestling owners as characters. We want to see fucking wrestlers. The Four Horsemen in the 80s were wrestlers who were dominating the company with the titles, but you didn't have either Bob Geigel or Jim Crockett or anybody else come out week after week to argue with them. You kept it to the fucking wrestlers, Dusty, Nikita, the Road Warriors. That worked for me. Bischoff in the 90s, when he kind of usurped Ted DiBiase's character behind the NWO, that started this trend where all these wrestling owners feel the need that they have to be front and center on camera. They're camera hungry like everybody else, but I just feel like it's not the best thing for their shows. And folks, as an actor, writer, director myself, and by the way, you're going to see a lot of new material on Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Someone's going to be wrestling related, some is not. Suicide Girls, I've dug into a lot of stuff from my archives. Thanks to my buddy Tim Labonte for helping me do that for the last 2 weeks. I want you to know that as a writer, director myself, I get those same feelings. Well, if I wrote this character and I'm directing this movie, why the fuck shouldn't I star in it? It's a dangerous game to play. Some people like Kevin Costner or Clint Eastwood can pull it off. Some people can't. I mean, you think about Tom Hanks in That Thing You Do. Denzel Washington's pulled it off a few times. I'm sure there's women. I don't want to discount women directors, writers. I'm trying to think of if I go Nicole Kidman or Meryl Streep or someone has ever directed a movie they were in. I can't think of anyone. But my point is, it's hard to do that. And I don't think that Tony Khan, Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon especially, Shane McMahon, they don't realize how fucking annoying they are and that they're hurting their own product, hurting their own shows. They just don't realize it because they fall in love with themselves. Dixie Carter, throw her in the mix. I think Bischoff wins, Shane. To answer, if you were wondering what I thought, I think Bischoff, especially in the response, like Bischoff responds to Tony responding to Bischoff, I think Bischoff clarified it. Bischoff has nothing against AEW. He's got nothing against Tony Khan. He just doesn't want people to disrespect someone like Ted Turner, especially a Tony Khan, who's living off the trail that Ted Turner left behind. So, points to Bischoff. I think Tony is kind of falling into that thing. Like I said, you start to believe your own hype. You start to think of yourself as bigger than you are. Tony Khan was born on third base. Don't fucking tell me if I wasn't born with Tony Khan's money, I couldn't be doing a better goddamn promotion right now than Tony is, or a better football team. You know what I mean? I mean, you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and what are they? They've won one game in Europe. They haven't won a game in the United States this year. And that's all this fucking controversy with this coach, Urban Meyer. I did an Urban Meyer rant. The point is, folks, I think Bischoff wins that round. I think Bischoff put Tony in his fucking place. And I think Tony has to fucking take the L. You know, David Spade used to have a thing where he said, take the L. Take the fucking L, Tony Khan. You lost that one. Bischoff fucking chumped you out. And I think he did it out of love, because I think Bischoff would love, and he said this himself, I'm just repeating what Bischoff said in different words. Bischoff would love for there to be competition with AEW, really competing with WWE on a week-to-week basis. So would I. And I think that iron strengthens iron. And it's kind of like the mentor-protege thing. Like an unofficial mentor-protege is the relationship between Bischoff and Khan. Bischoff's been down these roads on TNT with a weekly wrestling show, then a second weekly wrestling show. One thing that Bischoff said, I think he even said it to Tony Khan when they did a dual podcast with Conrad Thompson. The biggest mistake he made, he was forced to make with WCW, it was a Ted Turner initiative, was to do a second show, Thunder. Bischoff didn't want to do Thunder. Turner made him do it. They did it, and it softened and it weakened the excitement for Nitro every week. And I think my feeling was that was going to happen with fucking AEW Dynamite and Rampage, and I still stand by that. I'm not saying that Rampage isn't a good show. It's had some great moments. The CM Punk return, some great matches. I still think that the Dynamite 2-hour-a-week show was better, and find the rest on YouTube. But I will say this, if you're going to have all this influx of talent from ROH, the remnants of ROH, I guess it does make sense to have a second show, Rampage. The question is enough people going to fucking watch it? And I don't have the answer to that. I know that as it is now, to be honest with you guys, I struggle with watching all this goddamn wrestling because I've also got all these Japanese wrestling DVDs. I got my buddy Eric sending me fucking deathmatch links. There's all these documentaries to watch about wrestling, Dark Side of the Ring. There's not enough fucking time left in my life to watch all this goddamn wrestling. And I'm still writing scripts. I'm traveling up and down the East Coast to act in major motion pictures. And I don't have time to fucking watch all the goddamn wrestling I like to watch. That's on, and that's just me. That's not even you guys. And I know you're also busy with all the women you're fucking and all the wonderful things you're doing in your life, right? Any goddamn way. My hair's so goddamn long now. People were commenting that I've got the 80s wrestler's hair. It does feel very, God, fuck. I mean, I feel like I'm in some band from the 1970s. I just don't know which band. But any fucking way, I've never had my hair this long. I stopped cutting my hair because of fucking COVID, and also save money. I kind of like my goddamn hair now. What do you guys think? Any fucking way. Shane, I think I've answered your fucking questions, buddy. Shane's out there in Chicago, which has kind of become the AEW de facto second capital after Jacksonville. Shane also came out to fucking Jacksonville to attend an AEW show with me. I appreciate him doing that last year. And that's it, folks. So, like I said, subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Khan versus Bischoff. I'm on Team Bischoff on this one. ROH, very interesting. I'm not, to be honest, it doesn't really bother me that they're out of business. I think they did what they had to do. Some people even called them Ring of Dishonor a few times for some of their things. But I think they left a great legacy. I think that they laid the foundation. I think that ROH put things down that things like NXT and AEW owe a lot to. I don't know if they'll ever get the credit. They might. There have been a lot of ROH shout-outs recently from Daniel Bryan and Bryan Danielson. Don't want to use his former slave name. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson have both put over ROH on AEW shows lately. The Briscoes, that might be and I think both of the Briscoes or one of them has said some fucking weird tweets, non-popular, kind of controversial tweets. I'd have to do the research and see exactly what it was, but I think the Briscoes are probably the best talent from ROH. The only problem is they've gotten long in the tooth. I mean, I'm old enough to fucking see those guys go from rookies to veterans. How many years do the Briscoes have left in them at a top level? 5, if you're lucky. So we'll see what the fuck happens. Although they did start very young. They started as teenagers. I saw a Briscoe versus Briscoe match in Massachusetts. I want to say in 2003, 2002 or 2003. So I think it's going to be interesting. And I think, Jay Lethal, EC3, I think that's a great talent. That's very interesting. He's no longer doing the character like the spoiled rich guy. I'd like to see fucking EC3 and Dixie Carter reunite, to be honest, somewhere else besides Impact. But EC3, the narrative thing, my buddy Joe Cronin talks about that a lot. Will we see EC3 in AEW? I think that would be great, especially an EC3 MJF thing. If EC3 kind of went back to his old EC3 persona just to fuck with MJF, I think that would be fascinating. I think they could pull it off. But once again, you know what? This is like hardcore wrestling stuff for hardcore wrestling fans. The mainstream audience doesn't know what the fuck ROH is. Like the people that used to get the Austin 316 shirts or the DX shirts or whatever the fuck. they don't know what the fuck ROH is. ROH. The real wrestling fans do. And I think it'll be interesting to see how this breaks down. I'm looking for more comments. Sorry, guys, I missed out. Adam DeMoy, Jacksonville, Dixie. Let's see, buddy. Oh, I missed all these comments, guys. I'm sorry. Gee whiz. I think, in my opinion, Tony Khan is doing an amazing job so far. And if he didn't know what he was doing, I don't think AEW is where it should be. But I do agree that owners should stay behind the curtain and run the show because, like you said, we lived through shit like that for many years. But as far as Eric Bischoff goes, I think he did a hell of a job as general manager of Raw, true, and did an amazing job in ECW, WCW, or Impact as his on-screen self. But Eric, as his real self, he's got a very spoken mind, and I admire that. Well, yeah, Bob, and here's the thing. Tony even said it, like Eric's in the commentating business now. I think he really meant to say the podcasting business. And you got to say things that are interesting. Adam, my buddy, who gave me that nice AEW wrestling package about a month ago, Tony is getting the ring, teaming up with Punk to cough Spike a rating. Adam, is that true? I hope not, buddy. I mean, to be honest, I didn't say anything about last night's Dynamite because I haven't even watched it yet. I've been traveling. But if Tony Khan is teaming up with CM Punk, that's going to suck. Very well said, Mike. I wish you were closer to helping my good wrestling. Me too, buddy. I agree 100%, man. Thanks, Shane. Adam Des Moines, Jacksonville, Dixie. What do you think about Dixie Carter in AEW? Hey, Ian, what's up, buddy? I'm just leaving RI. I'm actually in the state of Virginia now, Ian. I'm on the road. I just went to fucking KFC. I had the spicy chicken sandwich. I even have some extra chicken items in here to eat on my journey. I was fucking hungry. I had to get gas. I had my fucking tank on empty. I pulled over. I got gas. I went to KFC. I keep telling myself I'm going to go pescatarian again, which is just eating fish and fucking shrimp and no meat. And I keep eating meat. So what the fuck? You know what I mean? We're all full of shit when it comes down to that, right? We all say we're going to do stuff and don't do it, but sometimes we do. Disregard the Vampire Mike Messier documentary. There will be a new 4-hour web series with a wrestling related thing. Please watch for it, guys. This is going to be very fascinating. The wrestling related experience, 4-hour web series, the Philadelphia Experiment. I'm not going to say anything more, but just keep an eye. Make sure you always refresh my channel and push the video thing. The KFC spicy chicken sandwich was actually pretty good today, Shane. It was pretty damn tasty and spicy. I liked it. I think it might have been better than the Popeyes, but the Popeyes that's near me in Neptune Beach, Atlantic Beach, Florida, is not very good. Nice brother. I've been wanting to try that KFC chicken sandwich. It was good. I ate the whole thing before we even went on the air. I still have some mashed potatoes and gravy to eat. Health. I haven't eaten a fucking vegetable in a week. I was eating fucking pizza all the time. Pizza and that's the thing about Halloween. It's a bad month for big guys because of all the fucking candy going around. Like everybody wants to stick candy in your ass or in your face. Well, Ian, Shane, Adam, of course, everybody was a good sport today. We all had fun. Bob Mann with some good comments. I think a first-time commenter, maybe a second time. Sorry, Bob, I forget sometimes. But we had a lot of fun here today, folks. I enjoyed it. I guess I'll go eat the rest of the meal, maybe stretch. I've got another 6 or 7 hours of driving tonight, so wish me luck on that. It's raining. It's actually, the rain stopped a little bit. So I'm going to get going, gentlemen. Thanks for being here. And I didn't forget you guys. Just look, all the Suicide Girls material, the new web series, 4-hour web series, wrestling and film related. It's going to blow your fucking minds. Look for that. The Philadelphia Experiment coming soon. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Thanks, buddy. Safe travels. Call if you're bored on the road. Will do, buddy. Safe travels, brother. Make sure you rest up if you have to go back and get to paradise safe. I'll be staying in Fayetteville, North Carolina tonight, watching World Series Game 3. I do watch baseball. I do watch the World Series, and I'm predicting Atlanta in 7. Why not? So there you go, folks. Tonight, I think Atlanta will take this one tonight, but it's going to be it's going to be a 7-game series. It's just two great teams. Okay, go Atlanta Braves. I'm predicting, like I said, I'm predicting Braves in 7. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. For further viewing, you can watch my Crown Jewel report. and the Suicide Girls. I think you guys will get a big kick out of it. Look at the Suicide Girls stuff, the interviews I did 15 years ago almost. Actually more, 17 years ago. Okay, thanks, guys. See you later.